to rebuild a Bourgault Auto Section Control valve assembly. These are all the parts that are going to be required. Steel bracket, 2 poly halves of the body, 2 seals, 2-sided, one side soft, one side hard, cylinder, stainless steel knife, sensor, and a various assortment of nuts. So the first thing we want to do is we want to put our cylinder on the bracket. So as you can see on the bracket here, it's got one flat side, it's not round, so that it locks the cylinder in place, and the cylinder is manufactured that way also. So we're going to stick our cylinder there, and you want to make sure you have a little bit of Loctite, because you want to put a drop of Loctite on the threads of the cylinder so that the jam nut on the bottom of the cylinder doesn't loosen up. We're going to put that on. We're going to use an 1 5/16 wrench, and we're going to jam that nut tight. So the next thing we want to do is there's a little jam nut that locks against the clevis on the cylinder. This little jam nut, we want to take and we want to put it on the threaded end of the cylinder rod. Just thread it on all the way so that it's out of the way for now. Then we want to take the little clevis. It's a little spring clevis, so just take a screwdriver and pop it open and then just remove the pin for now. You can then take the clevis, thread it on all the way until you can see that it's flush on the inside of the clevis with the ends of the threads. Once you have it flush with the ends of the threads, you can take your jam nut and back that up to the cylinder, or to the clevis. Take your 7/16 wrench and jam that clevis tight with the jam nut. So now we've got the cylinder assembled to the valve, the bracket assembly. I'm going to take this half of the valve body, so the one with the elbow going up, we're going to mount it inside of the bracket. And when you go to first put this in here, it might be a little bit tight because the body might be sprung a little bit, but once you put the valve body in there, it'll spread it out to where it needs to be. So now we have the first half of the valve body assembly in there. We want to take one of the seals, they're both the same, the soft side, and you can see on the seal how it's contoured around the edges. You can also see how in here it's contoured around the edges also, so that this seal can't move around once it's inside. So it kind of locks it in place so it's not sliding around. So we want to put it with the red side to the outside. The next thing we want to do is take our knife blade, and we're going to put it in here, and we want to put it in through the clevis. Then we want to take our little pin, put it through the knife and the clevis, and then just use our finger to snap it shut. Now that pin is locked in that blade. So once we've got that far, we want to take the second half of the assembly, and we want to put the second half of the seal inside. You can see it fits the same way. The easiest way to get that done is to take it to the edge of a table and just kind of lay the top end with the cylinder over the table so that the body isn't pushing up. Take your seal, and just set it over top of the hole. Just kind of lightly align it. We can align it further with a screwdriver once we get the second half of the body on. And then we'll just take the second part of the body and set it on top. And once we've got it set on top, we'll be able to see inside how we can adjust that seal just a little bit so that it fits nice and comfortably inside of the rest of the body. Now we want to take these little nuts, little nylon lock nuts with a flange on them. There's 10 of them in total. For demonstration purposes, I'm only going to put the 4 on the corners. And once we've got those 4 on there, just hold that valve assembly together with your hand. Take a 7/16 impact. And you just want to get them snug. Once you've got them snug, you want to take that knife assembly and you want to extend that knife out all the way in the cylinder. So just grab it and give it a little pull. And if it's tight, you may have to back these nuts off a little bit. can move that knife assembly freely. So the reason we want to do this before we tighten anything up is we want to have the knife all the way out to the open portion so we can align this. There's slotted holes where all the nuts go for all the bolts. So as you can see, if we move it up and down, you can see how that knife can get uncentered in there. So we want to make sure we center that properly by just sliding both halves up together and make sure that that cylinder stays extended fully while we're doing this process. And you can just move the one half because they're keyed together. There's keys here and at the top. So now once we get that all together, we can tighten it back up. Make sure you don't tighten it too tight and torque it right tight, as it can put too much pressure on that seal and then the cylinder won't allow it to move up and down because it won't have enough pressure. So if you see that you're having trouble with one of the cylinders not moving up and down inside the knife valve assembly, the first thing to check to make sure your nuts aren't too tight. Second would be if a seal got put in backwards and the soft sticky side was against the knife assembly. The last part of reassembly is the sensor. Proximity sensor, there's a port in the bottom of the body on the back side. This tells us if the knife is closed or open, and it sends a signal back to the monitor so it knows. You use one of the jam nuts and one of the star washers, put it together, and just spin it in by hand, and it'll bottom out. You want to turn it until it bottoms out, and make sure that it's snug by hand when it bottoms out. If it's not snug by hand and there's an air gap in there, it can cause erratic sensor readings and you'll be looking for phantom problems. Then just simply spin the nut the rest of the way in there, take a 15/16 wrench, and jam it.